neat. Real neat. Now Omicron is right here in the United States of America. If you're doing any listening at all on what's going on with this new variant, started about a week or so ago in South Africa, and we have been warned for the last couple of days. Just a matter of time before it makes its way to the United States of America. And we found out last night that the first case in America happened in California. So it's here, right? I got questions. I had a million questions, right? Hey, Sanjay.
Hey, how are you, Bert?
Sanjay Gupta from CNN. First of all, how could you allow this to happen for so long?
I've tried my best, Bert. You know, I've been doing my work here.
You certainly have, man. You certainly have. Do people stop you in restaurants and hit you up for coronavirus advice wherever you go?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, airports is a big one. You know, I've been traveling a little bit more now, and people have a lot of questions. You know, it's interesting because I think I'm so immersed in it, and I think you start to believe that, all this knowledge is getting out there, but then you talk to people and you realize that there's a lot of people who, understandably, I will add, are sick and tired of it. They don't want to pay attention. So when they see me, they say, hey, let me get all my questions right now and knock this out. Yeah,
well, I'll tell you what's happened to me, Sanjay, and then Kristen's got a question for you here. It's just that, man, I feel, and I've told these guys this week also, that I got so burned out on the news, man. I mean, I think it was around election time, the last couple of years. I felt like every time I turned on the news, I was just really walking away from that experience super bummed out. So I have definitely cut back on my toxic relationship with news. But there's a responsibility I have also. So I don't think I'm getting all the info because I'm just not checking it out nearly as much.
Yeah, I know. I hear you. It's tough, and the problem I think a little bit on top of that is that people are going to social media a lot more and getting these snippets of news that are often not vetted, not fact checked. Maybe promoting a particular way of thinking about something, and it becomes these really I'll be honest with you, strange echo chambers. Where people that I know who are, smart people, thoughtful people, are saying things that I think, I need to back up about 20 steps to understand even where you're coming from on this. It's just, I don't know if this is sort of an indication of even beyond, this COVID pandemic, where we're sort of going with how we collect information. But it's been at times frightening, to hear this. I mean, I maybe that's a larger conversation sometime, but how do we continue to create, knowledge as opposed to a bunch of, information echo chambers? Mm-hmm. That's how a society moves forward. And right now it doesn't feel like we're doing that.
Have you lost any friends over this whole thing? Like, oh my God, I didn't realize how stupid he was. And then just decided, I'm not talking to that dude anymore.
That's a yes.
I've lost friends. I've had some tough conversations, I don't know, maybe they don't consider me a friend anymore. I don't know. I wouldn't say that, but I think it's even, it's not even what people think, it's how they're thinking about this. I mean, as a doctor, I take care of patients, and patients never want to hear bad news. I get that. They don't want to hear it. But I have to tell them that. That's I think my primary obligation. I can do it with empathy and, be a kind person, which I am, but you don't want to sacrifice honesty. And I think that it's the same thing here with this pandemic. I think people, they don't want to hear it, but that doesn't make it go away. Mm-hmm. And if you don't want to hear it, you'll start seeking out, sources of information that basically say, hey, look, this isn't a big deal. These guys are trying to do X, Y, and Z to you. And I get that on an individual level with patients sometimes, but to see it on a societal level is weird. Again, maybe this is just my own naivete. I don't blame them necessarily, because there is a lot of bad information out there. There just is. If you go Google right now, 100% certainty of death with COVID vaccine, you'll find some paper that will say, everyone's dying that takes this stuff. It's weird, but you can get confirmation bias so easily nowadays that it makes it really challenging.
Sanjay Gupta from CNN joining us.
I think you and I and everybody agrees this is a team effort here when it comes to figuring this out and getting us to a better place. And I think, the pandemic fatigue is real and has been real for a very long time. And I think a lot of people also have this mentality right now. It is what it is, and I'm just going to continue to live my life, and whatever happens, happens. Now, for myself and trying to be responsible, and I was actually shocked at how hard this was to find. I'm trying to make decisions for the holidays.
Yeah.
And we have this new variant, and I'm going to use myself as a prime example, and maybe other people are going through this. I want to host our Bert Show Christmas party at my house. So now we're talking about 20 vaccinated people in my home, and I have a child who's 8 months old, not vaccinated. So I was trying to look up COVID numbers and where they stand in our area, in our state, and it's just it's all over the place, and some people say it's up and other people say it's down, but it's down because those numbers from Thanksgiving haven't been reported yet. So I'm trying to make an educated, responsible decision, but I don't feel like I have the information I need to do that.
No, I hear you. I mean, there is reasonable information that's Georgia Department of Health. I mean, the CDC, you're right, has not updated their numbers in some time, and that's been a source of frustration. But Georgia Department of Health will give you some idea. The numbers are pretty flat right now, I can tell you. In the country, they've been sort of plateaued for a while now. We still have some 80,000 people becoming infected every day. There's around 700 to 800 people dying every day. That's the whole country again. What I would tell you, though, for your situation, first of all, I think you're approaching it just the right way. If you think about your home in that situation, this Bert Show party that you're describing, you are describing a highly vaccinated environment. So, when we talk about even the days when we were talking about herd immunity, where you get enough of the population vaccinated that the virus really runs out of places to go, that's an example of that. So if it's 20 vaccinated people, you're in a high herd immunity environment, which goes back to your 8-month-old. The reason you have herd immunity is you want to protect people who either can't be vaccinated or vulnerable for some reason. So I think I would feel pretty comfortable with that. Now, with the situation you're describing for this party, if you wanted to add layers of protection, and there's no magic to this. This gets into people's own sensibilities. Hey, look, I want to do everything that I can that's reasonable to be as safe as possible. There's another thing you could do. There's at-home tests now, and the at-home antigen tests, which cost about $5 to $10, depending on which one you get. They get you an answer in 15 minutes. What they are answering is a question that I think you're really asking, and we talked about this last time I was on the show. But are you contagious? Right? I feel fine. Obviously, if you're sick, you shouldn't go to the party.
Yes.
I feel fine. I'm vaccinated, but I know there is still a chance that I could potentially be carrying the virus and maybe spread it to somebody else. And there's an 8-month-old here. So do a test, an antigen test, 15 minutes. If you're negative on top of being vaccinated, I think the party goes on.
Got it.
That's it. If you want to add another layer, you could open some windows. I know it's colder, but if you want to increase some ventilation, that dramatically decreases any potential viral spread. I have a CO2 monitor in my house. It's sort of a cheap man's way of assessing ventilation. The more people around, the higher carbon dioxide levels go up. And if it gets up really high, open a window.
And an extra layer is bourbon. It's worked for me.
I'm from Kentucky. There would be plenty of that there. And Dr. Sanjay Gupta, it sounds like you could use some these days. So if you would like to come over, I know you're vaccinated. You're more than welcome.
Yes,
Send him some Four Roses.
Hey, I think that people, generally speaking, and this is just my opinion, live with fear, live in fear. So now we have the new variant here. And at first I heard, look, the symptoms are more mild. Others are saying now that they're more severe. What do we know about the symptoms? And is it any more dangerous than what we've been dealing with for the last year and a half, 2 years, 20 years, whatever it's been?
Well, we've only known about this for 1 week. Okay, this new variant, Omicron. Last Thursday is when it was really, came to light. We now know that it was circulating earlier than that, but scientists have been sort of studying this for 1 week. These things do take time. I understand that people want answers. I do too, but they also should expect that quick answers aren't necessarily the best answers, and it's worth waiting a little bit, taking a breath and waiting. If I had to speculate, which is what everyone is doing right now, I get that. I look at this data really, really carefully, and I think what you're hearing is from doctors who are taking care of patients on the ground in South Africa that most of the patients they are seeing have mild illness. There's two other sort of points that come out of this. One is that the majority of people that they're seeing that have any illness are unvaccinated. So that gets back to the point that we were just making. That's a signal that the vaccines seem to be protective against this variant as well. That's good news. The second thing that they're sort of seeing is that there has been some increase in hospitalizations over the past 3 weeks in Gauteng province, which is where Johannesburg is located. Is that increase in hospitalizations because of this? We don't know. It's late springtime over there, their climate, so it's not really flu season anymore. Weather's getting warmer. Typically, you see hospitalizations go down from this sort of thing. So what's going on there? Again, they have to investigate that. What I can tell you, we spoke to the sort of Dr. Fauci of South Africa the other day, and he made a really interesting comment to me, which is that as viruses typically evolve, and in this case it's a coronavirus, but you could say about flu viruses as well, as they evolve, they tend to become perhaps more transmissible, but less deadly, less likely to sicken people. It's sort of the nature of a virus. A virus doesn't want to kill its host. It has a host and would like the host to be alive. So what happens over time is viruses tend to become more transmissible. They want to be able to spread easily, but less problematic in terms of causing disease. Is that going to happen here? Possibly, because that is the evolution we've seen with a lot of viruses. But I don't think that anybody should say for sure yet until we have answers. And I think that's part of the challenge, Bert, is that people want answers now, so a lot of scientists speculate. We're dealing with a disease that didn't even exist 2 years ago. When you and I talk about heart disease, I'm telling you 50 years worth of data. I can feel very comfortable when I tell you about heart disease. About COVID, it hasn't even been 2 years that the disease has existed. So we're still learning.
All right, I want to follow up on that vaccine. Then Davi's got a question for you. She's been really super patient. So how many vaccinations can my body take that are healthy? And here's where my head's at, because I got the double vaccination. I've been holding off on the booster, right? But I'm ready to take it. I'm not anti-booster. I'm ready to go for it. However, I did hear some speculation that they're working on a vaccine now for the new variant. So now we're talking about 2 vaccines, shots. We're talking about a booster. Now we're talking about another vaccine for another variant. I still haven't got my flu shot. This thing seems like it's going to continue to morph into different variants. How many vaccines can my body take in 1 year?
Well, so if I can just separate this from the Omicron thing right now and just talk about the COVID shots overall. I mean, first of all, we as humans do get a lot of vaccines, especially as children. Children get a lot of shots, and if the question specifically you're asking is how many vaccines can you take, I mean, there's when you're a kid, you're getting measles, mumps, rubella, hepatitis B, DTP, pneumococcal. There's all these different vaccines. As adults, we get fewer vaccines, but there are a few. What I would say, and again, this is just based on the data that we're looking at now. Take away Omicron for a second, is that in some ways, a lot of the virologists say this was always designed to be sort of a prime and boost vaccine, meaning you needed to prime the immune system. Those are the first 2 shots, and now the boost. And if you do that, you should get really long-lasting protection. Like hepatitis B I mentioned, when they get those shots, you could have lifelong protection from that, or at least very long, decades worth of protection. That may be the case here as well. We don't know that there's going to be a necessity for an Omicron-specific booster. I can tell you this, when Beta variant started to circulate, the vaccine companies did the same thing. Hey, let's make a Beta-specific booster in case we need it. We didn't. When Delta started to circulate, they said, let's make a Delta-specific booster in case we need it. We didn't. And Omicron may be the same thing. As I said, the early signals very much suggest out of South Africa and Israel that the current vaccines are working. Now, Bert, for you specifically, I would say you should get your booster because, again, disentangling this from Omicron, the whole COVID vaccine, when we look back on this, several years from now, we may say, oh, yeah, that was a 3-shot vaccine. Like so many other vaccines out there, the measles, mumps, rubella, the hepatitis B, those are all multiple-shot vaccines. This could be that as well. I don't think this is likely to get into a situation where every time a new variant comes out, we're going to have a new booster. It hasn't happened yet. Again, we'll see on Omicron, but so far the indication is that the existing vaccines seem to be working.
Super comforting. All right, Sanjay Gupta joining us this morning on The Bert Show. Davi?
I know most people are asking you about medical advice. I always look to Sanjay Gupta for my fashion advice. So you made the face masks were big deal, hottest fashion in 2021. Well, you didn't do that. Doctors did that. Y'all did that. Is that still the case in 2022, or do I need to go buy a full-on hazmat suit? Because to be honest, it does nothing for my figure.
Well, I'll tell you what I do. I mean, I carry a face mask with me. Right now, we're still in a situation, going back to the earlier question, where there's a lot of virus sort of spreading. We are sort of plateaued. I think that that's to be expected, given that we're in cooler and drier weather now. The vaccines circulate more easily. So, if, you talk about that party you were describing, I don't think you need to wear a mask at a party like that, given the very high rate of vaccination and maybe some of those other measures that I was mentioning. If I go into an indoor public area where I don't know what the vaccination rates are, and I imagine now, I think just because I've been so immersed in this, I imagine what the virus looks like. And if you start to imagine the virus, what it looks like, and almost like think about it like a rain shower, you can imagine that you'd be getting drenched with virus in a place where there's a lot of virus circulating and a lot of unvaccinated people. And in situations like that, I wear a mask. And you're required to wear them in airports, for example, on airplanes. That's a good example. But I'm carrying it with me. I don't think that it's going to be a part of life, constantly. But I do think that when there's a lot of virus spreading, whether it's coronavirus or flu, I don't know. I think it doesn't bother me to throw on a mask and protect myself. Flu numbers went way down last year. That was a sort of side story. We didn't do anything new for flu except for wear masks. And so, I don't like getting the flu either. I don't think I'm going to die when I get it, but I'd prefer not to get it. I get a flu shot, and I might wear a mask if I know there's a lot of flu circulating in the future.
Have you had a day off in 2 years? Serious?
Not really. It's funny. I don't know if I told you. There was this one day in June where for whatever reason, it was a weekday, and I don't know why. There was something going on, so I wasn't busy. And I was sitting with Rebecca. We were sitting outside, and it was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It was a nice day, and I didn't really have anything to do, and it was weird. And she said, "Do you want to have a glass of wine?" And I said, "I would absolutely love to have a glass of wine." Yes. And we had a glass of wine. We turned on some music, and then I looked at Rebecca and I said, "Is this what a lot of people have been doing?" It's been working for the last year and a half.
Seriously. If I'm you, I feel like if I have a glass of wine, then I'm going to get like an emergency call on my phone, and here I am, one glass deep. I just wanted 1 hour off.
See, Dr. Gupta, that's what everybody needed to hear. Y'all, get vaccinated so this man can have a glass of wine at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Please.
Oh, it was a great day.
The highlight of the last 2 years was one day in June.
Man, Sanjay, we appreciate your time so much. I am really looking forward to the day where you can join us and we could talk about something other than coronavirus.
Me too, man.
No doubt, man. I mean, you must feel like the Rolling Stones that have to sing the same song every single day in concert now for the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, you know me. I don't like to be the bearer of tough news. I mean, it's tough to be the guy who, people look at and they say, man, COVID again. I don't want to be that guy either. I don't like to be a doctor who has to tell their patients bad news. And we will get through this. Absolutely, we will get through this. But in the interim, I think there's got to be people who deliver these messages. Do it with empathy, do it with kindness. No one wants this pandemic. I don't want this pandemic. I wish it never had happened. I really do. But here we are. We're going to get through it, and I'm looking forward to the day where we could talk about something else completely.
All right. We are sending you a bottle of wine, and you can open it of June of next year. Okay?
Whatever time of day you want.
I appreciate that.
All right. So thanks for the time, Sanjay. I really appreciate it. Hope to see you and Rebecca soon.
You got it, guys. Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye now. Just the best. Just the best
The
making
best.
himself available for us, man. So, hope you guys got something out of that.
I did.
Guys, confused. You know what the bottom line here is? And you heard him say it time and time again. Because you want definitive answers from your doctor. And the truth is, a lot of times the answer is, we just don't know yet. We're talking about a variant that's a week old.
The Bert Show.